we're so far away from, the Beltway, we have no idea what's going on, other than it seems very embarrassing and juvenile. And as you noted, while a lot of people like to point at George Bush's poor standing in the polls, Congress has a worse approval rating. So, what's up, and, how can you, as president, save us and from all of this, backstabbing and juvenile behavior?
Well, first of all, it depends on who you talk to, but I also think the origin of these bitter partisan fights might have begun, in the view of some of us, with Robert Bork. That, you got a new word in the lexicon, he got borked, or she got borked. And I think, frankly, the crucifixion of John Tower, one of my personal heroes, when he was supposed to be Secretary of Defense and was literally destroyed by his enemies in every way, was a very seminal point. And I'm not trying to say it's Democrats' fault or Republicans' fault. I'm just saying that the level of partisanship continues to get higher and higher, and the quality of the discussion continues to deteriorate. How am I going to do it, change it? Well, I've spent my career reaching across the aisle and working with Democrats, whether that be Joe Lieberman or whether it be Russ Feingold. Poor Russ Feingold. Many people in Wisconsin think his first name is McCain. It's terrible for the guy. Ted Kennedy. Whoever it is, that we have a common goal and a common purpose, I will work together. And that's the only way you get anything done in the United States Senate. I have strong differences with Carl Levin. He's managing the authorization bill on defense, and I'm the ranking Republican. We have strong differences in Iraq, but we're working together on the rest of the bill in its entirety, because it has things like a pay raise and many needed things for the men and women in the military. And we're both dedicated to getting that done. So I've worked with these men and women for more than 20 years. I know how to work with them. And the day that I am inaugurated, I'll say I reach out my hand to the Democrats. But I'll also say I'm telling the American people to tell the Democrats to reach out their hand to me. Because, and this immigration debate is a classic example of, here's an issue that we all know is broken, no matter where you are on the issue, we all know it's broken, and yet we couldn't come together as a Congress and fix it. We all know that Social Security is broken. We all know that Medicare is broken. So are we going to do the hard things, which is what I want to do as president, or are we going to shovel it off to an unluckier generation that follows us, who are going to face much more difficult choices than we face today on these issues?
So I'm not supposed to ask political candidates this, but to what degree do you feel like the media, might be to blame?
I blame the media entirely, including for anything mistake I've ever made.
There you go. Well, I wanted to make sure and get that off the list here. Hear that, guys in the back room? Yeah. They're flipping us off.
Seriously, the easiest thing for any politician to do is to, quote, blame the media. There is no blame that I would assign to the media, in all honesty. The media is diverse today. The media is polarized in their own way in some ways. But the fact is, compare it with 20 years ago and look at the sources of information that the American people have today. Look at it. Now, it's your choice as to which one you want to read, see, hear, or believe. But the fact is, the American people have more choices and more information in a more rapid fashion than any of us ever believed possible a short time ago. And one of the reasons for it, and one of the blame for it, are the jerks in this room who have made that possible. So shame on you if there's a problem with the media. No, seriously, it is incredible what's going on today. And if you're a politician or a person who seeks public office, then you'd better adjust to it and not complain about it. You better adjust to it, and there are adjustments that have to be made. But I'm glad that we have the sources of information we have today, and I do not blame the media for, do I think they're inaccurate sometimes? Do I think that they make mistakes sometimes? Of course. But to say it's the media's fault, I think is a lame excuse.
Let's do a little case study then, and I think we chatted about this before, but Well, let me take a poll. How many out there, if you looked at the four major Republican candidates, Fred Thompson, Mitt Romney, Rudy Giuliani, and Senator John McCain, would you agree that the perception of the senator is that he's most closely associated with the war in Iraq?
Every hand should go up.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, my question here is, because this is the problem that I have with media, even though I'm in part of it, is that when I look at your position versus President Bush's position versus Mitt Romney's position versus Rudy Giuliani's position versus Fred Thompson's position on Iraq, basically, you all agree. In fact, I don't see any of y'all supporting, the Lugar, what's the other chap? Warner bill.
How soon we forget.
Yeah, exactly. Freudian forgotten. But anyway, so how are you different in Iraq in just a very general ways from the other contenders?
Well, a couple of ways. I complained about it bitterly after my first trip, shortly after the military success. I came back, gave speeches, including the Council on Foreign Relations. I went to the White House. I went to then Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld and pointed out exactly what was going to happen if we pursued that failed strategy. And very early on, I said I had no confidence in the Secretary of Defense, then Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, because I could see what was happening, and I was advised by so many military people that at how badly things were going. I believe that this new strategy, which is really, my friends, it's not new, it's the classic counterinsurgency strategy, has a chance of succeeding, and I believe that, as I've mentioned, the consequences of failure are catastrophic. Now, my whole life has been involved in national security. I know the issues. I know what war is. I know how the Congress works. I know how foreign policy works. And I know how national security policy works. I need no on-the-job training. I am fully prepared to address the challenges of the transcendent issue of this campaign and the transcendent challenge of this 21st century, which is the struggle against radical Islamic extremism. And it's going to be long, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be tough, and it's got all kinds of iterations associated with it. I am fully prepared to meet it. Nobody else who's running on either side has the credentials, the experience, the knowledge, the background, and the ability to address it like I do.
Okay, so...
Thank you for that scattered applause.
It was pretty resounding. You're doing good, boss. So, but let me, again, ask this one more time in the respect that, there's two sides to the issue. One is your qualifications, and, I don't think anybody takes issue with that, but the other is the perception. And, you were the rebel that stood up to your own administration or your administration of your own party before everybody else, criticized the Secretary of Defense, as you said, very early. You have, I know you don't like to talk about this, but you have a child in Iraq, as is my godson, so we take this very seriously. You're the only candidate that has laid your life down, in battle. Why is the media... If your position is really not different than the other candidates, what's going on here? What's the politics behind all this?
Well, first of all, Tony, you failed to mention I have a son at the Naval Academy who I was very worried about because he had no demerits for a long time. He could not have been a son of mine without getting a substantial number of demerits. But anyway.